So the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill is it passed the Senate. It's gonna pass the House. Probably already has by the time you're watching this. And I don't want to give people the wrong impression as to this bill. There's a lot of good stuff in this bill. People need the help. You have the $3,000 child tax credit, which would cut child poverty in half. You have the $300 a month unemployment. That was $400, but Joe Manchin weaseled his way into reducing that. You have the $1,400 stimulus checks. You have relief for states that were getting obliterated as a result of COVID. The other part that nobody really talks about, but I think it's one of the most important parts of this bill, is that it basically saves over 1 million people's pensions. So that's huge. So again, I don't want to give everybody the wrong impression about this bill. This bill, in many ways, is a phenomenal piece of legislation. And I'm trying to pull up, as I talk to you guys right now, I'm trying to see if I can find, there's a Jeff Stein tweet. Here we go. Jeff Stein of the Washington Post. Here's what he says. It's a new analysis of Biden's stimulus. Poverty falls by 42% for black people as a result of this bill, 39% for Hispanic people, and 34% for white people. Overall, the bill lowers the poverty rate from 13.7% to 8.7%. So listen, that's amazing. And I like what Internet Hippo said about this. He says, so the government really has a reduced poverty dial that they could just crank? Yeah, they do. They do. And so it's almost inexcusable that they even left 8.7% of people in poverty. We should eliminate poverty. You know, poverty is a choice. It's a policy choice that we've made. Now, thankfully, we made the decision to reduce it, but we could eliminate it if we really wanted to. So anyway, there's some good stuff in the bill, but keep it real, man. The two most important big ticket items that were the selling point of the bill are not in the bill. $2,000 stimulus checks, that was reduced to $1,400. The Weasley move where they said, you already got $600, so it's going to be $2,000 total. Nonsense. $2,000 checks and the $15 minimum wage. It's not in there. So now you're going to hear the conversation going on in elite media about this. You're going to see Morning Joe and one other MSNBC show. Look at how they're talking about the left in relation to this bill.
And how are they dealing with their own party? I know that there were actually progressives that were complaining that this didn't do enough. There was some fighting going back and forth, attacks against Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. How do they feel those back and forths are going? I would think almost every progressive, even just looking at Steve's charts, every progressive has to understand this is the most historic piece of legislation to help working class and middle class Americans that this country has put forward in decades.
Well, there was certainly some sarcastic behind-the-scenes commentary about Senate Majority Leader Joe Manchin, considering the senator from West Virginia's outsized influence on the process right now. Those in the West Wing weren't always delighted about that, but they recognized that deals had to get made. And in terms of attacks from the left, they are actually really grateful for the support of Bernie Sanders, who they believe has given them progressive cover here. That yes, there are some on the very left portions of the party in the House who will have some complaints, who might make a little bit of noise this week. But they feel like if Bernie Sanders is on board with this and he released a statement afterwards touting how historic it was and how necessary it was, that the progressives will fall in line too.
The COVID relief package, I think the vote seems to be sliding by a day as they try to get the text together for it. Do you see any challenges on the horizon getting this back through the House? I mean, progressives have been critical of Joe Manchin for essentially forcing them to negotiate with themselves, lowering that unemployment number. Do you see any problems? Or, I mean, I have a hard time imagining someone's going to stand up and say, yeah, actually, I'm going to stand in the way of the Democratic president's first major priority.
No, I mean, if it were Republicans, they probably would, and they would hold out for that last $100 a week in unemployment insurance that Joe Manchin and Senate Democrats cut. I do think it's going to pass, Casey. I think it's going to pass easily. But remember, I mean, Nancy Pelosi has a 5-seat margin before she is in big trouble or before she can't pass a bill. But no, I do think the progressive left is going to stay with Joe Biden here and is going to deliver him his victory without much turbulence. I was a bit surprised about that. I thought that there would be more kind of tumult on the left, but there's not. And that's a big win for Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Joe Biden to get this bill across the finish line this week. I was skeptical, and we've talked about it before, that they would get this done by the March 14th deadline, but here we are, and it looks like they're going to.
That is colossally depressing. It really is. It really is. So in the first clip there, they discuss how Bernie Sanders gave Joe Biden progressive cover on this bill. Bernie is giving his good friend Joe progressive cover. They say in the second clip, effectively, hey, the left is going to fall in line. There's a part where he says, quote, if they were Republicans, they probably would fight. If they were Republicans, they wouldn't fall in line. They would hold out for what they wanted. And then he starts laughing. He laughs. He's laughing at the left. He says, without much turbulence. Then he says, I was surprised. I was surprised that, the left is basically falling in line with a whimper here. Not much fight. Honestly, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Now, Ro Khanna, a few days ago, or last week or something, drafted a letter and sent the letter to the Biden White House. And the letter basically said, we want that $15 minimum wage in there. You should overrule the parliamentarian. Over 20 House Democrats signed that bill. Over 20. But then Roe went on in an interview to say, hey, if the $15 minimum wage doesn't make it into the bill, yeah, I'll probably vote for the bill anyway. So in other words, you wrote a letter suggesting to the Biden White House to overrule the parliamentarian who said, oh, $15 minimum wage can't be in there. Why the fuck would they ever listen to your suggestion? Why would they listen to your There's no reason for them to listen to your suggestion. You're going to say, thanks, Ro. We're done here. We're going to go in the other direction. Why? Because they don't want to do a $15 minimum wage. The part that's so frustrating is this. Over 20 House Democrats signed that letter. If those over 20 House Democrats voted as a block, the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill would not be able to pass. It is a must-pass bill. So you know what? They would have had to take a seat at the table and figure out a way to get the House Democrats on board to vote for the bill. And the House Democrats could have said, there's more of us that are mandating the $15 minimum wage be in the bill than there are those that say it shouldn't be in the bill. So it's on you, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, to get to work. Go talk to Joe Manchin. Go talk to Kyrsten Sinema. Go talk to the 8 ones in the Senate. Chris Coons is supposed to be like a bestie of Biden. Go talk to your boy, son. Go talk to your boy. And you play politics. So you say to them, listen, we could be best friends or we could be worst enemies. What do you want in order to support the $15 minimum wage? You tell me and I'm going to deliver on it. What do you want? You want something special for Delaware, Chris Coons? Okay, let's talk about what you want. What do you want money allocated for? I got you. Go talk to Joe Manchin. Joe, what do you want, man? What do you want? You want some sort of provision in the infrastructure bill that mandates double the amount of money goes to West Virginia? Is that what you want? I can make that happen, dog. I can make that happen. It's a carrot and stick approach. You can either be their best friend or their worst enemy. If you cross me on this, and if you don't vote for the $15 minimum wage, listen, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. You're going to support it. But if you don't support it, I'm going to make your life a living hell and your career in Washington, D.C. is over. And I'm going to take my 62% approval rating and campaign directly against you and support a primary opponent against you as well. How you like them apples? This is how you play politics. This is what you do. But guess what? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were never going to fucking do that unless they were forced to do that. The only people who had the power to force them to do that were those over 20 House Democrats who could have voted as a bloc. Said, no, we're not supporting this bill. You said $15 minimum wage. You said it. I didn't make you say it. You said it. It's a 67% issue according to a poll from 2019. 67% of the country supports it. You're going to do what you promised, and I'm going to make you do what you promised. You said $15 minimum wage. We're not voting for this bill unless it has a $15 minimum wage in there. They didn't fight. They didn't fight. You want to know why Joe Manchin always gets what he wants? Because he says, I'm not going to fucking vote for it unless it's what I want. So why are the House Democrats not doing that? You say you all want $15 minimum wage? Prove it. Fight for it. 67% of the country, if you're not going to fight on this, you're not going to fight on anything. And it's pathetic, even elite corporate media. You heard how they were talking about you. Bernie gave Biden progressive cover. Thank you, Bernie, for folding and not fighting for the $15 minimum wage. They're gonna fall in line. If they were Republicans, they would probably fight. Oh, I was surprised that, with very little turbulence, that they're all gonna fall in line. You guys are embarrassing, man. You guys are embarrassing. And you know what? I think the reason why they don't want to do it, honestly, is because it's hard. It is hard. If you fight for $15 minimum wage, you know what's going to happen? All of Democratic leadership is going to rain holy hell down on you. You're going to have Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Joe Biden put you on their enemies list. That's what they're going to do. The media is going to try to slit your throat. They're going to try to absolutely destroy you. But you know what? This is one of those issues where it doesn't matter how deep the propaganda is and how much they come after you. You are on the moral high ground if you fight for it, because you are representing 67% of the American people who don't want the minimum wage to not be a living wage anymore. You're fighting for the basic principle that if you work full time, you should make enough money to survive. That's what you're fighting for. You should love to take on that fight. You should bathe in the hatred of corporate media and the hatred of Democratic leadership. Are you kidding me? I would lean into this fight like you've never seen before. I'd say, I dare you to take me on this fight. I dare you. You want to debate it? Let's debate it. Did you know that if the minimum wage kept up with productivity, it'd be over $20 an hour today, and you're putting up a fight over 15? 15. They don't want to do it because it's hard. Sorry. Listen, I know a lot of these people who are the left-wing Congress people. They care about what the media says about them. They do. They do. They want positive press. They don't want negative press. They care about what leadership thinks of them. They want pats on the head from leadership. They don't want to fight with leadership. So then listen, just acknowledge and admit you're not leaders. You're followers. Admit it. Admit it. It's a fact. It's a fact. Leaders would fight on this. Leaders would take the fire from the media, would take the fire from leadership. That should be what you want to do. You should want that fight. And I don't care if it's the Republicans or if it's Democrats who are blocking me. You are my enemy on this issue if you're not for $15 minimum wage. Again, if you're not going to fight for this, you're not going to fight for anything. So pack it up. It's over. The only stuff we're going to get through is the stuff that fucking Joe Manchin allows. So we basically have a moderate Republican president in Joe Biden and Joe Manchin, who's really the president. That's what we have. And, some people might be okay with that little pocket change. I'm not okay with that. And working people aren't okay with that. And the world can't wait for that. So, it's honestly, it really is just pathetic. It's pathetic. If you're not going to fight for this, you're not going to fight for anything. So, there's nothing else to say except you're failures. Now, I told you, there's stuff in that bill that's good. It was a must-pass bill, which is why this was the time to fight for $15 minimum wage. If you're not going to get it now, you're never going to get it. And you're not going to fight for it now, so you're never going to get it. You know what's likely to happen now? Either nothing on the $15, nothing on raising the minimum wage, or if they do something, it'll be this pathetic. You ready? They'll try to do some shit through regular order where they raise it to like $11 an hour, $10 an hour, $11 an hour, maybe even $10 because they've got to get some Republicans to get over 60 votes, right? So they'll raise it to $10 an hour. They'll also link it to median wage increases or inflation. So you know what that does? It's an automatic raise year by year. Now, you say, Kyle, I don't know, that sounds pretty good to me, right? I mean, automatic raises, that's wonderful. You want to know why they would take this approach and why they would do it? Raising it from $7.25 to $10 or $11. $10 or $11 is still not a living wage. So you work full time and you still don't make enough money to survive. And then by linking it to inflation or median wage increase, they give you the automatic raises, but it never gets to the point where it's a living wage. So the real dirty trick there is you never revisit the issue ever again. And the minimum wage is permanently not a living wage. Because anytime you bring it up like, hey, let's have a vote on raising the minimum wage to a living wage, they say, What are you, crazy? We have a reasonable minimum wage, and they get raises yearly because it's chained to inflation. So no, we're not going to vote on that. We're never going to vote on that again. They get the raises automatically. We don't need to revisit this issue. This issue is done. See how dirty it is? And all that could have been avoided if the left fought, because over 20 said, we want the $15 minimum wage in there. But they're willing to say it and suggest it without leveraging their vote and fighting. So they don't even understand politics 101. Or they don't really want it as much as they say they do. They don't really care that much. Those are the only two options. Either they know absolutely nothing about politics, or they know they just don't really care that much. I don't know which is worse. I think both things are incredibly pathetic.